With our first case study now added, we can see that we have our case study under our all case studies page. Now, of course, we can add some more, but we're going to start adding some more as we once we've first built a template for this. So to build a template, again, as you should know, we can come along to Elementor, to template, sorry. We can come along to our theme builder, we can do it that way, or we can come along to add new and just select add new from here. So of course, if you're doing it from the theme builder, we are adding a single post here. So just hit the plus there, give it a name. You might want to name this the case studies template file, for example. I'm going to do it through this way. So this is not a single page, a single post. The template is going to be a single, not a single, it could just be a case study template file. Template guile? No, don't think so. Case study template file, and I'm going to create template. So we're not going to be working with any of these pre-made blocks. We're going to build this out from scratch. So how do we actually now start building out this template file to dynamically use all of the information that we put within that case studies editor page when we actually add all of that information, the images, the brief, the title, etc., etc. So let's actually start doing that now. I'm going to just get rid of that navigator. So let's now start designing. So let's first work with the hero, the header of this page. Let's come along and select a horizontal structure. We want to drag in 2 containers into here. Going to drag one in, and then I'm going to duplicate this one. So we have 2. Let's give the top level container a background color. Let's go with a single image, a single color, maybe pink. We could go for any color. We could, in fact, go for a blue color. In fact, I will leave this as a pink. That is absolutely fine for now. What I'm thinking of doing is for the different categories of case studies that we use. For example, when it's an e-commerce case study, maybe it's a services case study for a website which is for service related. We could have a different color header. So maybe for blogs, we're going to use pink, etc., etc. E-commerce, we could use a blue, and for services, something else, just as an idea off the top of my head. But let's leave the pink for now. Let's actually give this container a height. So come back to layout, min height. Let's maybe make this 550 or 600. Make this 550. 550 is okay. Now, if we let's add actually a border to the bottom here. So shape divider. Let's do the bottom here. Let's again make this waves. Let's make this a little less tall, maybe 85. Maybe make the width about 180. That will be fine. So I'm happy with that. So now let's add, what do we want to add in this container? Let's first of all add the post title. So if we actually drag the post title in there, what you'll see is it's just dragging in Hello World. So Hello World is being pre-populated from our blog post that we have. So we only have the one default blog post, which is that comes with every WordPress fresh out of the box install, which is that Hello World blog post. Now, of course, this isn't going to be used for blog posts. This is going to be used for our case studies post type. So to change that, let's come to settings here. Because what we want to do, we want to change what is being displayed for this preview. So if we now come to preview settings, now what we can do is we can select the preview dynamic content as, change this to case study, and now we can just select anyone. Better Life Design was the one that we just done. So let's just see what this looks like with Better Life Design. So apply and review. We can now see that Better Life Design is being dragged in there, since this is a template that we're going to use for our case studies. So of course we can see the post content is going to be the content that we fill in within the editor page. Now, we didn't add any post content. In fact, I will go back and add some content in there, but I'm not going to use the content in the header of this page anyway. What I will do, I'm going to drag the featured image over to the right hand side so it looks like that. And what I'm going to do is I'm also going to just add in, what do we want to add in here? So I'm going to add in a post info over here, because then we can start dynamically inserting some of those custom fields that we've inserted in the editor page. So let's drag post info over. So we'll drag that underneath Better Life Design. Now we can see this is just adding all of that normal information that we get from the info of a standard blog post. Now none of that is relevant. We don't want to include the date, the time that this was actually added. I mean, you may want to add the date and time, that's absolutely fine. But for this, we don't want any of that. We want to go along and select add item. And then here under type, we don't want to add any of these. We want to select custom. So now we can add in a custom info. We could add in some custom info here. Instead of adding in something here, which is then going to fix this field with some content that is never going to change, we need it to be dynamic. So what we want to do is we want to select the dynamic tags. And what are we looking for here? So here, if we come down to ACF, we can see that we have this ACF field. And now if we select that again, we can select which of those fields we want to inject. So here we want to use the website brief. So I'm thinking the website brief might look good underneath the title there. So that would be absolutely fine. So now this is going to inject the title brief. So at the minute we have the title, we have the brief, and we have the featured image. So what you can imagine now, so far, this template that we have created is going to completely change with every single case study that we use this template with. So when we add a different case study, it's going to populate this dynamically with the actual title of that case study, with the brief for that case study, and the featured image for that case study. Just like if we were to create a template file for a blog post. So almost exactly the same. So you can see now we can just use these templates to display all of the content for our case studies dynamically, specifically for the case study that we have clicked on. So let's now just carry on adding some styling and stuff to this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to let's just edit the style of this Better Life Design. Going to come up to the style here. The text color, let's make accent, and then the typography, let's change this to primary. I'm actually going to make that a little bit bigger. So rem, I'm going to maybe make that 2. I think 2, maybe 2.5. No, in fact, 2.2. Let's go with 2.2. That is fine. This page info, why is that? That's really annoying that we've got this extra padding over the side here. Let me just delete those two. So yeah, it has this extra padding over the side there, which is annoying. So we can offset that with some negative margin. So let's do that now. So left hand side, negative margin, just to close that gap so that it is in line. I think it's maybe 15. So negative 15 there, just to bring that in line. And then we can come to the style. Let's come down to text. Let's change that typography to text. So that is like that. Let's change the text color to text as well. In fact, we could have this black. We make this black. I'm actually going to add this as a global. So just a global black. Create. So that is in black there. That is absolutely fine. We could actually make that typography a little bit bigger. So it's currently 1. Let's make that 1.2. Some reason that doesn't show as rem, which is very strange, but that definitely is rem. So 1.2 rem. That is fine. Now, of course, at the minute, you might consider adding a little bit more text for the brief, because at the minute it's looking very, very light on the text there, right? So we would actually go back and add that in. So I'm going to show you, I'm going to actually do that in just a minute. But first, let's just edit the alignment of this first container. Let's change the let's change the justifier to the center. So it's sitting in the center there. And then just to counter this extra bit of space over here, I'm just going to add some margin to, some padding to the bottom of this stuff in the middle here. So let's do that now. So let's select padding. Let's select the bottom just to move that up, maybe just so that it looks centered to that color there. So maybe just 45 or so is fine. Of course, I want to add that standard 15 or 25 that it adds in automatically again. So I'm going to go with 25 on the right and 25 on the left. In fact, I think it's 15. Let's go with 15, 15, 15. That is fine. So Better Life Design, and we have the image here. Let's also align this in, or justify this in the center so that it looks like that. I'm also going to add some round, just going to soften the edges of that a little bit. So let's come along to style. No, that's for the container. Let's come to the image. Let's come along to style here. So let's come down to the border radius. Let's maybe make that 10 just to soften that a little bit. That looks a lot better. If we wanted to change the width, let's fix that with a pixel width. So perhaps we'll go with 500 there. I think 500 will be okay, not 5,000. So 500. So this is our Better Life Design. This is the featured image of that. And I would say for now that this is looking pretty good. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to publish this for now. And then, of course, we're going to want to set the display conditions. Now, as you might have figured out by now, we do not want this to be displayed for all posts. So if we select Add Condition, we do not want this to be used for all singular post types, right? So we want to make sure that this is displayed only for our case studies. So as we scroll down now, we can see under case studies, we've got the case studies option here. Now, again, if you remember, we want to use that pink heading that we've just built for this one for the blog categories. So I'm actually going to select the case studies in category, and then I'm going to select blog. So start typing blog, and we can see that the blog option appears there, so that we can then duplicate this template with a different color header and display this for different categories within case studies. So we'll have a different color theme to e-commerce. It'll have, again, a different color theme again with maybe a service type website. So now this is all set up okay. Let's go ahead and select save and close. That's been added. But what we do want to do, I'm going to right click over here on exit so that we open this up. Now, of course, at the minute, let's come back to case studies, all case studies, and then edit Better Life Design. What I do want to do here, I'm going to add some more text here. So client asks us to build a modern dynamic website as their personal blog. They talk in depth about all kinds of travel, city guides, and how to travel more sustainably with an eco-conscious twist. Now, I'm just completely fabricating all of that. I'm sure it's pretty nonsensical. A lot of typos there as well, my goodness. Anyways, that's absolutely fine for the brief. More with city guides and how to travel more sustainably with an eco-conscious twist. That's absolutely fine. That's fine. In depth. Now we can also add some content under here, under Better Life Design. I'm just going to use Hipsum. So Hipsum, come along. Why does that not work? I'm going to Google Hipsum because for some reason it's not. Hipsum. Here we go. Hipsum.co. So why is that not working before? Very, very strange. Anyway, so I'm going to go with 5 paragraphs. Let's go like this. Let's just copy this. I'm going to come back to this case study, paste that in. That is a lot of text. I'm going to delete a little bit because we probably don't want that much. So this could be the detailed part where we're displaying exactly, how we achieved this brief, right? So that is how we could be using this information. So that is absolutely fine as it is for now. Let's go ahead and update that. So now when we actually come to take a look at this website, this has been updated, so I can refresh this. Of course, we're going to see that updated brief just here. So what we might actually want to do here, and I think it would be better if we did, I'm going to drag a heading into there. I'm going to change the style of that. So typography, maybe change that to primary. I'm going to then make that a bit smaller. So maybe just a 1.2. 1.2. That is fine, Montserrat. Let's change that color to purple again, or to accent. I'm going to then come to the actual content and just write here, client brief. Just like that. What I will also do, I'm just going to add some negative margin to the bottom of that. We could, of course, remove the space between here under this container, whichever way you prefer to do it. Let's go ahead and add maybe just 4 like that. And then with this title here, I'm just going to add some padding just at the bottom of that. Better Life Design, client brief, and that is looking a lot better. So that is basically our header taken care of for our template. So for our case studies template, in the next lesson, we'll just carry on building out this template so that it's going to display all of that information dynamically, no matter what case study we actually view.